take something that matters deeply to you and rebuild it inside the minds of your listeners. We call that something an idea from Chris Anderson. And I want to also welcome everyone who is watching live now to our very first TEDxDonauinsel Idea Couch. I'm Matthias Haas. I'm TEDxDonauinsel curator and Global Shaper curator. And we want to do this new format like a TED and TEDx Talk with a maximum of 18 minutes with interviews. And this episode is in cooperation with the Global Shapers Hub Vienna. And we have a very special guest today, Austrian Federal Minister of Justice, former TEDxDonauinsel speaker, Global Shaper alumna, and great friend, Alma Zadić. Alma, thank you so much for being with us today. So how are you doing?
Thank you so much for this very kind introduction. And I'm really happy to join this new format. And as I understood correctly, that's the first time you're doing it.
Exactly.
So I'm very, very pleased and honored to be your first guest, and I'm very looking to this format and to this interview.
Thank you so much, Alma. We start our interviews always with a short word wrap. So we have a few questions for you, and we would kindly ask you to answer only in one word or one sentence if possible. So let's start right in. So the first would be, if you wouldn't be a lawyer, what would you be?
I always wanted to be an astronaut.
Ah, wow. So one word your best friend would use to describe you?
A very good listener.
Ah, super. What's your favorite food?
I don't know if you know it. It's cevapcici.
Ah,
it's,
of course. Ah, that's
like
great.
traditional dish
Barbecue.
from Bosnia.
Ah, super. So to get a little bit more serious, of course, like what was the last time when you cried?
The last time when I cried was actually very recent. Recently we had this Mauthausen Remembrance Day, which there was a remembrance ceremony that is online because unfortunately this time we couldn't meet all together, and that's always a very emotional and very sad moment, and I just can't hide my tears.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. What is your current favorite song?
My favorite song, Run the World from Beyoncé.
Super, that's great.
It reminds me of a very good friend of mine, and also shows empowerment of women and girls.
Oh, super, perfect. So if you could choose one superpower, what would that be?
Superpower. I mean, flying would always be amazing, but even more amazing would be to listen to people's mind.
Ah, super. And the best idea people came ever up with?
The best idea people came. I mean, there are so many amazing ideas out there. But looking, for example, at NASA developments, you remember this female technician that worked in the 60s, the black female technician that worked in the 60s and helped launch the NASA project, and was one of the leading mathematicians. And I think her ideas and her incredible contribution helped NASA become what it is today, actually.
So cool. Thank you so much. I mean, talking about ideas, TEDxDonauinsel and TEDx is all about ideas worth sharing. And you gave a TEDxDonauinsel talk in 2016. So for every one of our watchers who did not see it, we will link it in the comments so you can see it later. But maybe as a short summary in one sentence, what was the main idea of your TEDx talk?
So the main idea was the identity of power, actually the power of identity.
Absolutely.
And the power of identity, so what does it mean? I wanted in my talk to show how important identity is and how important it is for people to feel that they belong to something, that they feel that they belong to a society. And in particular, following my own experience where I had, because I am originally from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I grew up in Austria, during my school years and as a student, I always asked myself the question, so who am I? who am I, a Bosnian or am I Austrian? Because when I was in Austria, everyone would ask me, so where are you actually really from? And when I was in Bosnia, everyone asked me, well, you know, you're Austrian anyway. So you kind of lose this sense of belonging. And in this talk, I wanted to show how I overcame this struggle with the identity, and that it is totally okay to have both identities, that you don't have to choose between one or two or the other identity, but you can have two identities. I can be Bosnian, I can be Austrian, and I can be European at the same time, and I don't have to choose between these three. And I think that sense of identity gives you a lot of strength and power.
Thank you so much for this. So as said, for everyone who didn't see it, very highly recommended. I mean, you talked about your childhood, and you came to Austria as a refugee during the Bosnian War, and you talk about integration and education and identities, as you just said. You know, for me as an Austrian, approximately in the same age, it's quite unimaginable to experience war or what it means to leave our home. What did you, and maybe what can take others from your experience, and what can we learn about that?
I think the most important thing is to always keep in mind that peace is fragile, that it's very important to be attentive and to don't take it for granted, because peace and democracy is not something that stays here forever. We have to care for it, and we have to pay attention when things develop in another direction, when we see hate spreading out, when we see segregation, when we see that people are being harassed because of their religion, because of their sexual orientation, because of where they come from. We have to step up and try to be strong to protect our basic human freedom rights.
Super. Thank you so much for this super important message. And actually, I was just recently told a story from a teacher in the school you went to in Vienna. And one reaction of a student who learned that you became Minister of Justice was like, oh, does that mean I can also become a minister one day? And I think it showed a very beautiful moment of, that highlights that you became a role model, not just for migrants and people or refugees, for young people and women, but in general. And my question would be like, can others achieve what you achieved?
Absolutely. I'm sure they can, no matter where they come from and who they are and who they belong to, of course they can. But what it requires is people on their way to support them. So, and I think that's one of the important messages. I can never return what people have done for me, but what I can do is I can return it to others. So supporting others, making sure that they, try to help them achieve their dreams. And I think this helping each other, trying to show the others that they are worthy. I think that's one of the most important things that can help people achieve their dreams and one day also be the Minister of Justice. So I am very thankful for all of the support that I received.
Super. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I mean, you know, since your TEDxDonauinsel talk, where you talked about many of these things, of course, in detail, a lot of things happened. I mean, especially in the last month, when you think about you became Minister of Justice, you faced a wave of hate and solidarity, both on and offline. We have the extraordinary situation with COVID-19. And how were your first months as a minister in general?
That's a very good question. The last 128 days were very intense, and it's I can hardly grasp that it's only been 128 days actually. First of all, you mentioned that there was this really immense amount of hate and hatred and people who were wishing me dead. But at the same time, I also received so much support. I mean, it's really like, it's incredible how grateful I am for so much support and so many amazing messages that I received. There were also some people that called the ministry and would say, please tell the Minister of Justice that we support her and that Austria is not like that. And I think that was that those messages carried me through this initial phase where there was a lot of hate, a lot of hatred, people who wanted, who were sending me back to where I came from. So yeah, so this was very intense. And then of course, immediately thereafter, the corona crisis started and this virus started spreading, which was one of the hardest moments I had so far.
Okay, wow. So maybe, I mean, most of us are of course not ministers. So maybe can you tell us a little bit, how does a usual day for a minister look like?
It's a tough question. So there's no day alike the other. So the days are very, very different. Usually I get up, I try to meditate to be ready for the day, because meditation gives me power and strength. Also in particular throughout this difficult times, because I have to take a lot of decisions throughout the day, and my mind has to be, settled. That's why I try to meditate every day. But then, you come to the office and all of a sudden all the meetings start. I have regular meetings with my team, with experts. I have a lot of Zoom calls in these days. So I'm trying to make the decisions also the best I can, and also always have a lot of information around me so that I can take a good decision. But I guess that's like every position or every job in a leading position, where you kind of have a lot of meetings, have to take a lot of decisions, and you're trying to stay strong, you stay settled in your center, and trying to do the best you can.
Oh, super. So you mentioned meditation, because that would be my next question. Like, what do you do as Alma when you're not a minister? I mean, what do you do besides being a minister?
Oh, there's so much I want to do besides being a minister, but right now it's very hard to find time to do anything but my job, because it's right now it's really overwhelming, and there's so much we have to do every day, taking new decisions. What can we do to prevent the coronavirus from spreading? How far can we open the courts and so on? So that's, I think, right now, unfortunately, there's not much time for anything else. But I do try to call my friends and call my parents, because that gives me strength, and also kind of gives me, let's say, gives me the power to feel being a person.
Okay, super. I mean, a question which comes obviously to mind is, I mean, you had a successful career as a lawyer and so on. What motivated you in the first place to go into politics?
I get that question a lot. And 2017, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to join this party that was newly founded. But that was kind of the moment where I decided, okay, I'll quit my job and I will go into politics, because for a very long time I was always a political person, and for a very long time I had this urge to shape the society, to shape the to positive change. That was also one of the reasons why I joined the Global Shapers, by the way. To do that with a lot of like-minded people from different fields. But when I got this chance to enter politics, I had a weekend to think about it, and I decided over the weekend that I'm going to quit my job and started to fight for justice, to fight for our basic human rights. Because in particular, 2017, I'm sure you remember it, Matthias, was a very difficult time. Somehow you felt this hatred against refugees. There were a lot of voices and hate messages, and I thought it's time to step up and to say stop, and to show Also with a lot of positive examples that it can be different and that Austria is different.
Oh, super. Thank you so much. I mean, you mentioned here the global shapers. Maybe quickly, who are the global shapers for you?
The global shapers for me, I mean, they played a very important part in my, a very important role in my life, actually, because I met so many incredibly interesting people who are like-minded, who have this urge that they want to contribute to a positive change. They want to fight for justice. They want to fight for human rights. And that was so empowering. You know, for me being a lawyer, it was amazing to meet people from different fields, from different backgrounds, and work together towards this common goal. And yeah, I mean, we met there, met a lot of other shapers with whom who became my best friends, so it's played an important role in my life, and I'm happy to be that I was part of it, and that I'm still a Global Shaper alumni.
Super. I mean, you know, the Global Shapers at the moment in the last 2 years had one focus with bursting filter bubbles. And one question which comes up is like, in which filter bubble basically are you in? And do you have a strategy for yourself maybe to burst out of it?
It's very interesting because I'm in 2 different filter bubbles that are politically, I guess, and also ideologically different. In one filter bubble is this, I would say, social left green filter bubble that is very supportive of the politics of the green. And the second bubble I'm in is this migrant bubble, the bubble where people come from different backgrounds, in particular people who come from former Yugoslavia. And this is politically a very diverse bubble. You have different opinions, different political opinions. They kind of all have the same problems, but they are politically totally diverse. So for me, on social media, it's very difficult to burst the bubbles, also because it is generally very difficult to fight against the algorithms we are faced with.
Absolutely.
But what I try to do when I'm offline and when I meet people, I always try to speak to the non-typical green voter. So someone at a guest house in Vienna who would not regularly vote for the Greens, or who has a critical comment about my politics, because it's so enriching to see why they hold these attitudes that they hold, and why they have these beliefs. And it's so nice to see that you can sometimes reach a common field, and that behind what their worries behind are very often the same, only their way to the solution is different than mine.
Wow, that's really powerful. I mean, talking about ideas and so on, filtering burster bubbles, I think was a really cool thing to come up with. So everyone who don't know it, check out the Global Shapers Vienna. Talking about ideas again, in general, you know, very often I go running in the morning, and this is where my head is super clear. This is where ideas pop up, like for this format, for example. But a question would be like, where do you come up with ideas? Like, what would be the perfect setting? And when you catch an idea, what do you do with it? Do you have an example maybe?
So I'm very creative in the morning. So like I'm the one, like when I get out of bed, I'm full of ideas, and it's very hard for my partner because my partner is not a morning person. So I come with 1,000 ideas, and he's like, "Oh, just leave me in peace." But what I try to do is, whenever I come up with an idea, I try to write it down as soon as possible, so it doesn't get overshadowed by another idea or overshadowed by the daily work. So I use a very simple tool. It's to-do list. It's a to-do list that I mean, there are different to-do lists out there, so I don't want to do advertisements for one or the other. But I just write it down in this to-do list, and then later on, when I have time, I review it and put it in different boxes where they belong to.
Ah, super. I see we're running shortly out of time. There are two quick follow-up questions already. I mean, ideas, you know, reading is for many a world of creativity and imagination and gaining knowledge. And would there be a book you would recommend that everybody should read?
There's so many books out there that everybody should read. I mean, one book that I always recommended for everyone is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It helped me structure my day, structure my life, because, and I think it's very, very efficient and very good. And it kind of also leads also leads me in my job right now. And the second book that I would recommend, I know we're running short of time, but for everyone in a leader's position, I would recommend Radical Candor. It's a very, very good book for leaders and show you the best way how you can effectively manage your team and get the best ideas out of your team.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And that brings me to the next question, to the online format. What would be your favorite TED or TEDx talk?
That's a good idea. There's so many out there. I mean, there's so many out there, and they're many of them so amazing that I recommend everyone to download the app and every day when you're taking a shower or when you're preparing your breakfast, switch one or the other and just listen to them. It just makes your day so much better and gives you positive energy.
Super, thank you so much. I mean, the last word is here. I'm with you. What's left unsaid? I guess a lot, but here's basically your last chance to address our live watchers right now.
Well, thank you so much for watching. I think an amazing format. Thank you, Matthias, for doing it, and I think that's an amazing way to connect with people, to share ideas, even in these times where we can actually not meet in person. So thank you all so much for watching and contribute your ideas. I'm always happy to see how many great ways we all together can find to exchange and to work together.
So thank you so much, Alma. What a pleasure to have you as our first guest for this format. And now also thank you to all of you who are watching online right now to our very first TEDxDonauinsel Idea Couch. You can always find all the mentioned books, recommendation links, and so on as links down in the comments. You will find it there. And also, if you have any questions, let us know. Our interview guests and also the TEDxDonauinsel team is very happy to answer them in the comments later. For now, I can just say thank you so much. See you next time at the next Idea Couch. Stay healthy, everyone, and have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.